day 2 of the Scottish Short Course Winter Meet here at the Royal Commonwealth Pool. And this is session 5 of 9 in total. And with me, I'm Tony Rose, and with me today is Scott Goby. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Tony. Great to be here.
You're on the afternoon shift again with these youngsters.
Second day in a row, got invited back. So.
Absolutely. Well, you must have done something right yesterday then, or maybe something wrong to get invited back. I don't know. We'll tell you can tell us maybe what you think on that.
Yeah, no, it's a great experience, and looking forward to watching some fast racing this afternoon.
Absolutely. And so, anything particular looking forward to this? Well, yes. Any reflections on yesterday's swimming? There was lots of fast swimming in the afternoon heats yesterday.
Yeah, no, definitely some fast racing. It was great to see some of the swimmers backing up events. Multiple events in the sessions, just making the most of that racing opportunity they had. So no, I really enjoyed that racing yesterday, and I think there should be some more fast swimming this afternoon. Yeah,
just for people watching on the live stream, so these afternoon sessions are the not so fast, I won't say slower because that's doing everyone a disservice, the not so fast heats from the events that were swum this morning. So we've got a series of them this afternoon, and then in addition we've got some additional youth heats to allow as many people the opportunity to swim. So there's events at the end of the session. There's some additional youth heats, 200 IM, 200 free, 200 breast. So we'll come on to them later, but that's to give as many people the opportunity to get a swim this weekend. But just run through. So we've got the men's 200 freestyle, the women's 100 butterfly, men's 50 backstroke, women's 200 breaststroke, men's 100 IM, and one heat of the 1500, and the fastest will be swum later on this evening in the final session. So that's the sort of main meet events, and then as I said, these additional youth heats, we've got the girls 200 IM, boys 200 free, girls 200 breaststroke, one heat of 200 butterfly for men, and a 400 free for women. So quite a mixed bag of events today. A lot of these guys will be youth swimmers, and as happened yesterday in quite a few of them, they'll be looking to nip at the heels of the guys this morning to see if they can get into some of these youth finals, which certainly happened yesterday a couple of times.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's got an opportunity this afternoon to squeeze themselves into those youth finals, and possibly even some of the A or B finals if they're not youth swimmers. Definitely not impossible for them to squeeze their way into an outside lane, or even a middle lane in those.
Well, you just never know. Some outside smokers might well be able to do that. So swimmers are gearing up to get going at the start line. So we've got the men's 200 freestyle coming up first. 3 heats of this. So for those who didn't hear yesterday, Scott, what's your bit of background from you?
Yeah, I swam at Edinburgh University for 4 years, mainly swimming freestyle events. I've also lived in Australia for a period of time, 6 years on the Gold Coast. So did most of my swimming out there, and now moved on to a bit of coaching, based up in Aberdeen at the University of Aberdeen Performance Swim Team. So that's a great opportunity for me to kind of boost my coaching career into action. Very good, and great opportunity for the kids as well, having somebody who's been there and done it, coaching them, and you'll have some pretty good mentoring coaches in Aberdeen at the moment, Patrick Miley included, so not a bad place to start. Yeah, absolutely. A great team of coaches, Patrick Miley, Greg McMillan and Lisa Houston up in Aberdeen, and just some fantastic swimmers and great people to work with. So really enjoying it so far. It's been busy times, but that's not a bad thing. Good to see. So a strong Aberdeen performance squad here this weekend, and also there'll be the national team champs next weekend as well. So there'll be 2 Aberdeen performance teams there as well in the A and the B finals. So that's something else to all the swimmers to look forward to. A bit of fun with some team events next weekend. But let's move us back to today and the afternoon session in this Scottish Winter Short Course Meet. And we're kicking off with the men's 200 freestyle, and we have 3 heats here. And in this first heat in lane 3 we have Ethan Sutherland from City of Glasgow. In 4, Greg Hall from Aberdeen Performance, and in lane 5 Max Pelosi from City of Glasgow. So let's see how these guys get on. So entries 205, 205.46. So that should be on paper a fingertip race, but let's see where we get to as they progress through this. So just coming into the first 25, still pretty even.
So freestyler Scott, 200, one of yours. How are you coaching your new swimmers to swim their 200 freestyle?
Yeah, definitely. 200 free is probably one of my favourite events, even not just to swim, but just to watch or even coach. It's an interesting one. It's getting that balance between speed and speed endurance. So it's probably one of the most challenging events in my opinion, and I think it's becoming more of a sprint, a controlled sprint, but a sprint, no doubt. In world swimming, but also down into the junior ranks, and I think it's committing on that first 100, but going out fast, but not too hard, so you've got enough to bring home on that second 100.
It's a long way to sprint, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So you're looking at under 2 minutes here, just above 2 minutes for some of these guys in these heats. So yeah, it's a long sprint, but definitely going that way, and you'll see the senior swimmers sort of taking it out pretty hard and just trying to bring it back as strong as possible on that second 100.
So in this race here, still pretty close between the three. It was Ethan Sutherland to begin with, but it's Greg Hall, one of the swimmers you'll be looking after.
Yeah, definitely Greg's
taking it out.
Yeah, Greg's been swimming quite a few events this weekend. He was in the 400 IM and the 800 free yesterday, so good to see Greg getting in and making the most of this racing opportunity and racing across all distances and disciplines. Yeah,
it was a feature discussing with Chris Jones this morning that a lot of these young swimmers not just doing the odd event, lots of multiple swimming, which is tough going, but good character building as well as strength and stamina building.
Absolutely. I mean these swimmers train for that, train for these different distances from the 50 all the way up to the 1500 and some even into the open water races. So yeah, very talented swimmers here, but they've done the training for this, so I'm sure they're
and they are absolutely nailing it as we go in to the last length. They are 100th of a second between Greg Hall, just taking it there, Aberdeen performance swimmer, 202. So a nice improvement in his entry, 100th ahead of Max Pelosi, and then Ethan Sutherland.
Yeah, all three swimmers there under the entry time, so that's a great start to the session. That's what
great start to the
session,
yeah.
I'm sure there's some smiles on those swimmers' faces.
And 100th of a second. I'm not sure we'll get much closer than that for the rest of the afternoon, but who knows? Maybe we get a dead heat at some point.
Yeah, love a close finish.
Absolutely. But they really kicked on in the last 50 there, so good to see. So moving into the second heat, we've got Kai Connolly from City of Glasgow in lane 2, Finlay Davis from Midlothian in 3, Zach Slater, East Lothian in 4, Jack Simpson in East Kilbride in 5, Reuben Kelly, Dumfries in 6, and Callum Sinclair, West Lothian in 7.
Duncan, do you have the target times for the sessions in the morning?
So this is heat 2.
So heat 2 going strongly out here. Good mix of clubs being represented here.
Yeah, good start from the middle lanes here. It's looking like it's going to be quite a tight race. These boys taking it out pretty strong. There might be some different race tactics across the board. You might see some people go out a bit stronger than others, and others focus more on the back end if they're more aerobically inclined. So interesting tactics here from the middle lanes, but they're taking it out pretty strong.
Yeah, that's a good over a second faster than the first 50 in the previous heat. So got to be thinking these guys are going to be knocking on the door of getting under 2 minutes. All these milestone times are always a big deal for swimmers, aren't they? It shouldn't be, but it's a real target, getting under 2 minutes or under 4 or whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And turning at 56.9 there, 57 lows, they've definitely got a great chance of reaching that sub 2 minute mark. Got to be out quick enough to give yourself the opportunity to achieve a time like that, and I think that's definitely a target in the back of all of these swimmers' minds.
Yeah, so that first heat was some pretty even pace, 1 minute out, 1 minute 2 back, but 56 out. And the lead has changed all the way through this. It started with Zach, then it was Jack, and now it's Reuben. And so the Dumfries swimmer is really coming in strong as he goes into his last 50 metres, 1:28.13. So he's still getting himself a chance to get under that 2 minutes, I would have thought.
Yeah, he's got to come back in a 31 high here to be able to achieve that sub 2 minute mark. And he's looking reasonably strong here. See how he works this last turn. Obviously, the turn's so important in short course swimming. When you've got so many walls, you can make up a lot of ground, but you could also lose a lot of ground and lose that speed that you've created on the swimming section. And
he's made the most of that last turn, kicked off hard, and he's coming in with a few metres to go, and he is looking like he's going to get under. Nice swimming there, 1:59.22 from Reuben. So a nice 4-second improvement for him. Second was Jack Simpson, just over 2:00, but really still a nice improvement for him. And then we have in third Finlay Davis, 2:02. So again, a nice improvement for him. That's the result confirmed on the screen there as we move into the final heat of these 200 free. So it's 152 point to get in the B finals. No youth finals on the 200s, only in the 100s and 50s. So bit of an ask for these guys, but you know,
never say never.
Never say never. People may have, some of these entry times could be a year and a half old at least, and they've been training since. So let's see how we get to. Some good swimmers in here have already had some good performances through the weekend. So we got Luke Porteous, lane 1, East Lothian, Nathan Campbell, Stirling swimming in 2, Robert Burgess, City of Glasgow in 3, Matthew Brown, Aberdeen Performance in 4, Mika van Blerk, Warrender in 5, Alex Thompson from Warrender in 6, Jake Gibson from Broch in 7, and Evan Crawford from first in lane 8. And I think some of these guys are going to go quite a bit faster in their entry times from what we've seen already this weekend. Whether they get to 152, I don't know, but we will see. But a very good start there. Maybe lane 2, Nathan Campbell from Stirling. And in the middle lanes, you've got Mika van Blerk, Alex Thompson from Warrender as well. But it's a strong start here from Nathan Campbell as he comes in to the first 50, 26.12.
Yeah, there's a couple of Warrender boys in here next to each other. You got to love a bit of training rivalry. So I'm sure these boys train with each other, know how they're going to pace their race, and hopefully they use each other to their advantage on this race and get the most out of it.
A few bragging rights up for play in here. It's nice also Evan Crawford here in lane 8 from first. But it's still Nathan, Stirling swimmer out there in lane 2, 55.16. So that's a second and a half up on the first 100 in the heat before. So he's really taken this out strong. And it's maybe Alex Thompson just edging through, and also Matthew Brown, Aberdeen Performance, strong, as you've said, third 50. You've got to really work it, and Matthew's really had a good go at that, and he's pulling back on both Nathan and Alex as they come into their final 50.
Yeah, definitely. Third 50 is so important. Just a crucial part of the race, and you know everyone can come back on the last 50, but you don't want to leave yourself with too much to do.
And Matthew's definitely been a proponent of that. He's really kicked in the second 100. He's pulling back on Nathan with every stroke, and Alex here in lane 6 as well. And I think Matthew's really got the momentum as he comes into the last turn. Let's see if he can catch Nathan up.
Yeah, we could be
on.
looking at a close finish here. Matthew breathing to his left, so eyeing Nathan right up, and he's coming into the finish here so he can get the head down.
Nathan's just going to hold on, but there's a cracking second 100 there for Matthew. So 155.78. Just under 0.2 behind him was Matthew Brown, 155.92. And in third, Alex Thompson, 157. So the first 6 swimmers there are getting under the 2 minutes, which isn't what they were entered into on. They were over 2 minutes. That's cracking. They'll all enjoy getting under that 2 minute barrier there. And there's a result for you. So that's a good start to this afternoon's swimming. And we're going to move now on to the women's 100 metres butterfly. We have 2 heats here.
Yeah, looking forward to this 100 fly. It's an interesting one. You've got these 100 strokes. You can do about 60% of the race underwater. I'm sure we won't see that this afternoon, but the top level swimmers are really utilising those underwater sections, so something to look out for here.
So let's see whether these youngsters are maximising that, as Scott has just been talking about. There's a lot of that this morning, chat with Chris about the underwater skills and the turning skills, how important they are, especially in short course. So these youngsters learning that from an early age.
Yeah, an early age indeed. I mean, Zara in lane 7 here, only 12 years old. So we've got quite a range of ages here, from 12 to 16, but everyone with an opportunity to race a fast 100 fly here.
So Zara Kravich, that's becoming a well-known name in Scottish swimming. Older brother Stefan has already broken a number of age group records over the weekend. Always easy being siblings and all that in these single sports, but Zara's holding her own, just turning second behind Lucy de Grossa, 31.92. Zara second. See where they get to here. So it is in the centre lane, Emma Finlay just behind Lucy, but it's going to be Lucy so far. Zara hanging on in there with 25 to go. Just trying to see the youth final timings here. So at the moment 106 looks like it's a youth final time, so just slightly outside that, 108. 108.53, so that's a nice improvement on her entry time. Second was Zara Kravich, So she's taken 4 seconds off her entry time. She's 12 years old, and she's the youngest person here this weekend. And in third we have Louise Connell, 1:10.39. Been a feature of this meet. A lot of the youngsters really coming through. A number of Scottish age group records in the 13 and the 14 and the 15-year-olds. It's good to see after lockdown the kids still at it.
Yeah, definitely. There was a massive break in competition, obviously, with the pandemic, and a lot of these swimmers just starting to get back into consistent training periods, and with more racing opportunities, I'm sure we'll see these swimmers progress a lot the coming season.
So we're moving into Heat 2 here, and we have Athena Pearce in lane 1 from West Lothian, Grace Courtney from East Lothian in 2, Nuala Gow from Gary in lane 3, Gabrielle Lessing from Ren 96 in 4, Jory Horn, lane 5, City of Glasgow, Lauren Clark, lane 6 from East Lothian, 7 is Ailey Robertson from South Ayrshire, and Melina Lau from Aberdeen, South Aberdeen in lane 8. So as I said, around about 66 points is what these girls are looking for. 29, just over 30.61. So that's a good bit faster than the heat this morning. So
good start from these girls. I'm sure we'll be looking on this last 25. Butterfly is obviously a challenging stroke, so pacing is critical. So we'll see how these girls have managed their efforts across this 100 with the last 25 coming up.
So it's a nice strong swim from the start in lane 4 from Gabrielle Lessing. She's the only one in this swimmers in this heat who's not in the youth age group, but she's making the most of her good start in the first 50. And she's coming in now. Nice swim, 105.60 for Gabriella Lessing. Second, Nuala Gow, 105.73. And in third, Jory Horn, 106.7. And quite possible both of those girls might have just, both Nuala and Jory, just edged themselves into that youth final. We'll need to get that confirmed, but I think that might well be for them, so that's great. All seeing some of the afternoon swimmers making the most of their opportunity and getting in for a second swim.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's interesting with the morning heats. Even though you've made the top 8, the top 16, you're never secure. So I'm sure there'll be some swimmers from this morning heats watching on the live stream and watching apprehensively as these swimmers give it their all to make these finals.
So I have to say a disclaimer here. Please don't take it at first face value. Everything I've just said there, you need to wait for the official confirmations around these times. So look on Meet Mobile or some Scotland results to get certainty around this stuff. But just to help out, we're going to give a bit of an indication, and we're going to do that moving into this men's 50 backstroke. 2 heats here. In lane 1 we've got Struan McFarlane from Stirling Swim, Conrad Slesser from Aberdeen Performance in 2, Joe Carter from Delting in 3, Dylan Cashmore, South Ayrshire in 4, Callum Dunn, also South Ayrshire in 5, Luke Porteous, East Lothian in 6, Finlay Nelson from Dumfries in 7, Jack Simpson from East Kilbride in lane 8.
Yeah, 50 backstroke coming up here. We saw some pretty quick swimming this morning from the morning heats. Actually, the Scottish senior record going this morning by Scott Gibson, 23.94. So he's taking Todd Cooper's record from 2009, I believe. So
yeah, that was amazing swimming. Clearly, the minute you got in, you could see he was going for it, wasn't he? So no holding back in the heats there for Scott.
Yeah, definitely up for it this morning.
So into this heat here. So,
yeah, good underwater section there from Dylan Cashmore. He's really taken this race by the horns. He's coming into this first 25, touching first. We'll see how these guys use the underwater section. Obviously, can go up to 15 meters. So a lot of these top level swimmers end up doing 30 meters of the race underwater.
Hold your breath for that. And it's lane 4, maybe Dylan. Oh, we have a dead heat. Fantastic. 2 South Ayrshire boys, both going 27.88. And that's a nice improvement on their entry times. Dylan and Callum, 27.88. I think that may be just outside the requirement for the youth final, but that doesn't really matter. They've done a fantastic swims there, although the screen, that's happened a couple of times this morning, has gone blank, which is either bad news for somebody or just verifying some times. So fingers crossed it's the latter. Always that preventive moments like this one in your swimmer, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. When you see the screen go blank, you've just got to hope that keep your fingers crossed, and well, there's nothing you can do about it. Even if you did get disqualified, I think you've just got to be prepared that that might be the case. And you see on the screen that Conrad Slesser has been disqualified from lane 2 in that previous heat.
It's a shame for Conrad. But there's the results on the screen now, confirmed, as we move into the second and final heat. And in this heat we have Owen Williamson from East Lothian in lane 1, Magnus Bullock from Shetland in 2, Ryan Ferguson, Edinburgh University in 3, 3 Aberdeen performance swimmers, Fraser Wilson in 4, Matthew Brown in 5, Calvin McDonald in 6, Robbie Thompson from Shetland in 7, and Murray Dixon Stirling swim in 8. I think Matthew Brown couldn't have had time to get out the pool and then round for the next race. He's not long finished his very impressive 200 freestyle, and he's up now in the 50 back as well. So a good warm up for his 50 back then, eh?
Yeah, definitely. He'll be primed for this 50 back after that 200 free. Yesterday we saw some pretty challenging doubles, some 400 IMs and 200 backstrokes. So 200 free and 50 backs are a much more manageable combination. So we'll see how Matthew gets on in this race.
No sympathy from the coach there for Matthew.
No, I'm sure he'll be more than capable of doing a fast 50 backstroke here. We'll see how he gets on.
So nice start lane 3 there, Ryan Ferguson. So he's really made the most of the start, as you've been talking about, Scott, how important that is in short course swimming.
Yeah, absolutely. Reactions off the block and then utilising that underwater phase in 15 metres, and you've got 10 metres of swimming until the turn. So it's pretty fast action racing here, and we have lane 3, Ryan Ferguson taking the win there in 27.04, closely followed by Fraser Wilson in 27.72.
Nice swimming from the two of them. Murray Dixon gets in 3rd. I think they're good swims there, just improvements on their entry time, just outside B final territory from this morning, but nevertheless some nice strong swimming from both of those swimmers, improving on their entry time. So that's always nice to do. Murray Dixon at least over a second on his entry, so that's good to see as we move into the next event. Non-stop here, women's 200 metres breaststroke. We have 3 heats in this event, and that's one of the challenges in this afternoon session. It's not quite as full as the morning, and so there are just event after event after event coming one after the other, and we're going to see a lot of these swimmers going in and out the pool, but good stuff for them to be able to sustain that. It will happen throughout their swimming career, so best start young. And in this heat we have Zahara Smith from Best in lane 3, Millie Donaghy from East Kilbride in 4, and Alice Cumming, Weston Barton in 5.
Yeah, a bit of a change of pace here with the 200 breaststroke. We've obviously had some pretty rapid fire racing with that 200 free, 100 fly and 50 backstroke. So onto the 200 breaststroke, definitely not my speciality. Breaststroke is certainly a challenging stroke, and I think I described it yesterday on the live stream as almost a different sport in itself. So interesting race, the 200 breaststroke, and I'm sure we'll see some different race tactics here, and these swimmers keep nice long distance per stroke on the breaststrokes, particularly on the first half of the race.
So when coaching, if one of your strokes wasn't really your favourite, you've got to go to coach all the strokes. How does that feel work? You know, I guess you're a coach, you've got to do everything, but clearly when you used to swim a stroke in particularly, does it make a difference in terms of coaching, or do you feel it's just it's your job and you do them all the same? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you're always going to have your strengths as a swimmer, and then obviously as a coach as well, you're going to know some more about areas that you might have had more experience in. But I think for me, the opportunity I've got in Aberdeen at the moment, our 2-year apprenticeship, I've got a great opportunity to learn from some of the best coaches in Scotland, and Patrick Miley certainly has a lot of experience with individual medley, which is all 4 strokes, so I think I'm trying to pick his brain as much as I can and develop my own knowledge on all 4 of the strokes, so I can transfer that to the swimmers. So yeah, it's certainly a work in progress, but no, definitely I think as swimmers and coaches, everyone should be targeting those multi-discipline, multi-event approach.
And certainly though in lane 3, Zara, she's just taken on the lead here. I think it was Alice at the 100, but Zara is taking out this one here in this third 50, getting quite a nice lead, building up strongly. 122 turn at the 100, so where we go here, 205.34. So yeah,
we'll see these swimmers sort of stretch out that first 50, and then sort of maybe they'll build the next 350s up. So come down this last 50, we see the stroke rates increase slightly, and coming into this last turn, Zara's doing a great job of this heat. See how fast she can swim this last 25.
So it looks like she's going to be nicely under her entry. So her entry was 2:53.9. Again, A and B finals only, no youth here, so it's a pretty tough ask, I think, to get to the B final or the A final. But these guys are just looking to improve on their best, and that's exactly what Zara is going to do here, and she gets under that 250, so 2:49.58. So that's a lovely swim from her. 2:51.5 from Alice, another improvement for her, and 2:54 from Millie, just slightly outside her entry time. So that was a good, nicely paced judge swim there from Zara.
Yeah, good start to the 200 breaststrokes. I've got full heat in it coming up next, so see some 200 breaststroke in action.
And in the second heat, we have Ava Kirkham in lane 1 from first, Lisa Goodbrand from Ethan in 2, Charlotte Thompson Midlothian in 3, Erica Watt, Harder Midlothian in 4, Ailey Stewart from Warren de Baths in 5, Freya Mason from Shetland in 6, Hannah Stahl from Cooper in 7, and we have Ailey Armstrong in lane 8 from East Lothian. Let's see how we go here. So looking at a 2:49. That's about the same as the entry time for the girls in the middle lane. Ages really 14, 15s and 16-year-olds in here.
Yeah, certainly these swimmers trying to maybe squeeze their way into the youth final, but if not, it's just a fantastic opportunity for a bit of racing, which we've definitely not had a lot of over the last year and a half with the pandemic, and especially national competitions. So it's great for them to be back here at the Commonwealth pool racing in a national short course event. Absolutely.
Although, I mean, I guess with swimming, there was always an age-old adage that, you know, a few weeks out of the water makes a big difference, and a lot of these guys were out for months on end, and it was a real struggle, but have come back. A lot of them almost fully really rested and raring to go, and performances better than they were beforehand. So it's been an unusual and interesting from a coaching perspective. Is that kind of different resting regime, has it been talked about amongst the coaches in terms of changing the philosophy going forward, or just something that had to be tolerated and dealt with?
It's definitely been talked about. It's an interesting proposition. I think it affects different events differently. You'll see particularly the more endurance-based athletes, so maybe take them a bit longer to get back into it, but especially for some of these developing swimmers, I mean, they've had 6 months to grow, and they're coming back and with longer arms, longer legs. It's challenging for all these swimmers, so I think there's a lot of learning coming from this. In terms of resting, I don't know, potentially some different philosophies coming from out of COVID, but I think as I'm learning my own coaching, I'm kind of developing my own philosophies on that. So it's interesting coming out of the pandemic, but I think a lot of learning and a lot more resilient athletes, which is a massive boost. They've definitely overcome huge challenges. So not only is that great for their swimming, it's just fantastic life skills. So certainly a challenging period for everyone.
Definitely, I think resilience is one of the buzzwords at the moment, but absolutely true for all these swimmers who've managed to keep at this, not swim for ages, and then still get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 mornings a week. So I think what you're saying is that's still going to carry on for swimmers. The early morning training is here to stay.
I mean, ideally, I guess you would want training to be a bit later so you can maximise the sleep that these athletes are getting. You know how important sleep is for recovery and everything in between. So the constraints of school being early and trying to fit that before school and pool time availability is probably the biggest challenge. But yeah, there's definitely learnings from that as well.
So here, though, in this race, Freya has really made the most of this opportunity. 2:44, so that's a lovely improvement on her entry time. 5 seconds in second. Close there, but it was Charlotte Thompson in second, 2:49.29. And Ailey Stewart comes in third in 2:49.45. So a couple of tenths of a second improvement for her, but that's nice. Good swim from Freya. 2:44, and that was a good improvement on her entry time, which is good to see as we move into the final of these 200 breaststrokes. And in lane 1, Isla McDonald from Inverness. In 2, Zara Kravich popping up again from East Lothian. Sophie Hull, Warren de Bath in lane 3. Perry Scobie from Stirling Swim in 4. Sophie Portier, Warren de Baths in 5. May Rogers, Warren de Baths in 6. Susan Orr, Ren 96 in 7. And Katie Brennan from Bells Hill Sharks. Just don't know if you heard that through the live stream. A bit of a wake-up call from the music maestros here.
On to the last heat of this 200 breaststroke here for the women.
So entry times 2:47 through to 2:48, so really just over a second between all 8 swimmers. So on paper, this should be a very, very tight race, but let's see where we get to. Great start there from Sophie Houle in lane 3.
Yeah, definitely great underwater phase there with the breaststroke pull out, and she's coming into this first 25 ahead of the field. See what she splits at the 50-meter mark. I was speaking to Patrick about pacing in 200 breaststroke, and he was discussing the second 50 of the 200 breaststroke being 5 seconds slower than the first 50, and the second 100 of the 200 breaststroke being 5 seconds slower than the first 100. So we'll see how that
let's see
out.
If Sophie is following the Patrick Miley School of 200 breaststroke swimming. We'll monitor this. 35:26 for her. So if Patrick is to be correct, this will be a 40 points on this 50. So let's see how that goes.
No pressure, Patrick, but we all know everyone.
Well, no pressure, Sophie, either. I mean, that's
everyone races differently, and she may well be much faster than that. So
well, let's see.
I think that's the great thing about swimming is different pacing tactics. People using their strengths. Some people might have more speed than others, and others might be much faster on the back end of their races.
Well, Patrick and Sophie are in sync because she's gone a 1:15.96, which is almost exactly 5 seconds faster than her first 50. So on that basis, she should be doing a 1:20, so 2:35. If she manages the Patrick Miley School of Breaststroke Swimming 200, she's going to do a massive PB and swim herself into the B final. So let's fingers crossed that Sophie's on message here.
Yeah, definitely a great start, but absolutely challenging to have that second 100, 5 seconds, within 5 seconds
that's
of,
a tough gig.
Of the first 100, but I'm sure that's something that swimmers may be striving towards in the future, and that's something that you might be seeing at the top level of in world 200 breaststroke swimming.
So let's see, Sophie's still out there very strongly though, 1:58.40. So she did a 40-second second 50. And she's done a 43-second third 50. So if she comes back 42, you never know. So she's done really strong swimming here in lane 6.
Yeah, definitely.
May Rogers as well.
Quite spread out this race, but there's definitely some swimmers having a great go here, and we'll see how far under their entry times they can get. Any swimmer going on PB, you can't be complaining with that, and certainly we've seen a lot of that in action this afternoon already.
Well, it's a great swim here from Sophie, and she's going to do a 2:43, just outside the B final. Well, not too far. Didn't quite manage Patrick's guide, but that's something to work on in the next one.
Yeah,
second,
definitely some great swims there. Second place, May Rogers coming in there 2:45, and Alan McDonald rounding out the top 3 in 2:47.17.
Good swimming here. So that's the 200 breaststroke for women concluded. And we're now moving on to the penultimate event of this second phase of the meet itself. And this is the men's 100 IM. Had some good 100 IMs this morning. And just have a look at the times.
Yeah, 100 IM, it's a particularly unique event. Obviously, it's the only event in the swimming program that can only be swum in the short course pool. Cannot be swum in the long course pool, so we'll be seeing some fast action here on all 4 strokes.
So in this heat we have Zach Slater, East Lothian in 2, Noah Connell from Shetland in 3, Dylan Cashmore, South Ayrshire in 4, Greg Hall, Aberdeen Performance in 5, Conor Mitchell, Warren de Baths in 6, and James Burnett also Warren de Baths in 7. So 3, 4 14-year-olds, a 17 and a 16-year-old here, and it is in lane 4. So Dylan Cashmore, the 16-year-old, and he's really gone out fast, as is James Burnett here in lane 7.
Yeah,
And
coming into that back to breast turn. We'll see a few different variations of the back to breast turn depending on skill level. We've got the normal just touch turn, you've got the crossover turn, which is probably, you're looking at the gold standard turn there, and there's also the flip turn, as we've seen in the past.
and Zach's maintained his lead. Dylan has maintained his lead, and he's pushing out. James Burnett, strong swim here in lane 7. 14-year-old next to the 14-year-old Connor Mitchell, teammate of his, but it's going to be in lane 4. Dylan Cashmore, 102.44. So that's a nice improvement on his entry. Very nice improvement on his entry.
Some big drops there, some massive drops indeed, actually.
I suspect this is the kind of event's not really swum very often other than at this meet, and maybe 1 or 2 others in the year. And most of these swimmers won't have done this for quite some time, but that's nice. Getting a nice big PB is always a good thing for the confidence.
Yeah, 100 IM is always a bit of a fun event. Yeah, unfortunately we have a disqualification out last heat. Noah Quinnell, lane 3.
And there's your results. All of those guys under their entry times. So that's good to see. As we move into heat 2, we've got Tom Nicholson in lane 1 from Delting. Jack Mitchell, Aberdeen Performance in 2. Finlay Nelson at Dumfries in 3. Joe Carter, Delting in 4. Magnus Bullough from Shetland in 5. Connor Stewart, Stirling Swim in 6. Calvin MacDonald, Aberdeen Performance in 7. And Brandon Aitchison from Bucky in lane 8.
100 IM, often one of the funnest events on the programme for these summers. You're looking at 425s maximum effort. Essentially it's a fast action race and not much room for error, and certainly be looking at the transitions across each of the turns. You've got the fly to back to breast, and breast to free turn transitions, so you're trying to maintain that speed on each stroke in and out of the walls.
So a strong start here from Finlay Nelson. He's had some cracking swims, a Dumfries swimmer, across this meet already, and he has got himself a good body, with good lead, but not a bodily length over lane 6. Connor Stewart, who actually got the touch, which didn't look like that at all, but we'll give it to the technical equipment. I'm pretty sure maybe Finlay didn't touch hard enough because he's already pulling ahead on the breaststroke as well, but Connor is going with him. Connor 16, Finlay 14, and they touch together as they've got 25 to go, so all to play for in this last 25.
Yeah, these boys coming in, it's a sprint finish here. See how far out they can get their head down and pick up that stroke rate and keep those legs driving into the finish.
That's a nice swim from Finlay, 102.95. Second was Connor Stewart, 103.6, and Joe Carter, 104.28 in third place. Just confirmed there on the screen. So a nice swim from Finlay. Second and a half up on his entry time.
On to the last heat of this men's 100 IM for the afternoon heats.
Indeed. We've got in this heat Robson Miles from Scotia in lane 1, Jake Gibson, Broch in 2, Jacob Wood from Elgin in 3, Carl Barrett, Aberdeen Performance in 4, Adam Scott from City of Glasgow in 5, Ryan Broadley from Broch in 6, Jack Lorimer from Ithan in 7, and in lane 8 from Tain, Lewis Austin. So it's a northern feel to this heat. Broch, Elgin, Ithan, Tain. See whether these guys can get some nice improvements on their entries. Carl Barrett, 20-year-old in the middle, and the rest are in the 15 and 16-year age groups.
Yeah, entered on 103 most of this field, so we'll see if we can push into that low minute territory here in this last heat of the 100 IM.
So a strong start from Carl in 4 and Robson in lane 1.
Yeah, Carl really using those underwaters off that turn. A senior athlete in this field, so certainly got some experience and worked on his skills over the years.
So it's nice. And you saw the turn there. Still don't know how to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging skill to learn, but mastering technique is something that comes with practice, and consistency of practice is key for those sort of technical movements. Cracking
breaststroke leg there in lane 1. Robson Miles has taken a couple of metres off Carl on that one alone, and he's just ahead, but it's getting close with lane 3. Jacob Wood as well. and Carl in lane 4. And I think Carl's just going to hold on here. It's coming back strong as he does. Nice swim, 102.96 for him. In second was Jacob Wood, coming through very fast in that freestyle, 103.32, and only 100th ahead of Robson Miles in lane 1. Coming in a 103.33. There you got confirmation of that result there. So nice swimming there. So that's the splash and dash of the 100 IM. We go from the sublime to the ridiculous, and we have the first heat of the men's 1500 freestyle. The fastest heat of this will be this afternoon, this evening's session, so don't miss. This is live streaming this evening. In the finals, there'll be some fantastic swims and races this evening. Final heat of this being one of them. 5:15 start, I think. So join us for the live stream later on. But before we get to that, we've still got this 1500, and then we'll have, in addition to that, we're going to have these extra additional youth heats, but we'll get onto them after we've done the 1500. 1500, anything you talked about having a good spread of events and encouraging it. Did you ever get into 1500s?
Yeah, definitely. As a junior swimmer and even into the senior swimming, I was trying to spread across as many distances as possible. Having lived in Australia, the distance pedigree that they have in Australia is significant, and you've got Olympic champions left, right and centre there with Hackett and Kieran Perkins. So that distance swimming in Australia is sort of embedded in the culture, and that was in the culture of the training that I was doing as well, and we were always encouraged to spread across all distances from the 50 all the way up to the 1500, and also the open water races. It wasn't a rarity for us to be swimming the 5k open water as a developing swimmer, which I think is important.
Yeah, it's almost a different sport, open water swimming, from my experience. It's the breathing's different, how you do your stroke rate, spotting where you're going. It's a different sport almost.
Yeah, definitely, and a challenge and a good exercise for character building as well. I think that's what my coaches in Australia thought. So,
well, you had the added bonus of sharks as well, didn't you, in Australia? So
yeah, we actually did it in a lake which was built for a rowing course. So we would be constantly hitting the little buoys that were in place for the rowing course. So that wasn't always sharks, but
better a buoy than a shark, I would say, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Callum Peebles taking this one out. And we'll do the rest of the swimmers in this heat. We have Carl Mitchell from Gary in lane 1, Fraser Tetlow, Gary in 2, Ethan Sutherland, City of Glasgow in 3, in 4, Callum Peebles from East Lothian, in 5, we've got Ben McLaughlin from Gary, Ren 96, Ewan Walker in 6, Evan Crawford from 1st and 7, and Struan McFarlane, Stirling Swim in lane 8. So it's a strong start from Callum. One of a little cadre of strong 15-year-old, 14-year-old East Lothian swimmers, and there's only one in this heat though, but we've got a strong presence from Gary, 3 swimmers, training mates, so they'll know how each other swims this race. So Callum turns in a 1:00.67, and so if you were going to have a word with Callum before this heat, what would you be saying to him around his 1500 here?
Yeah, I think when you look at 1500 pacing, it's interesting. There's certainly different tactics that have been deployed in swimming, and there's no right or wrong way, and I think different people have different strengths. But I'd be looking at probably about 3 500s or 5 300s, depending on what the swimmer would prefer. I'd be looking at descending across either 3 500s or descending across 5 300s. Not necessarily in time, because the time may stay the same, but in terms of your intensity of the effort across those distances. And
already a few changes around. Ben McLaughlin from Gary has Callum went off fairly speedily on the first 100 and 150, and Ben has just gone it relatively steady, but now leading as they come into the 200, and that's a 2:06.98. So he probably done a 60. It was a 60 point for Callum in the first 100. I think Ben was probably around a 61.62, so that's a 64 for his second 100. And so how quickly into the race in a 1500 do you think they'll be finding their rhythm in terms of, is this third 100 going to be the one they'll try and set the pace and stick with, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think after that initial 300, you're sort of into the race significantly. So you probably, hopefully, these swimmers have find their rhythm. I like to think about freestyle as range, rhythm, and relaxation. Obviously not full relaxation, but I think those 3 R's are important for freestyle technique, and particularly when you're looking for efficiency and maximizing distance per stroke on events like the 1500. We saw the 800 yesterday. There was some exciting racing in that 800, and the 1500 is a little bit of a step up, but we saw some even pacing in the 800 yesterday, and actually a negative split in one of the afternoon heats. And I think some of these boys might be trying to deploy strategies like that, trying to keep their pacing consistent across the 1500, but possibly even negative splitting each half.
Yeah, so that's talking about the rhythm there. That's a 66. That's 2 66s, I think, in a row for Ben. So that's him maybe found his rhythm. So the step up from 8 to 15, is that a more natural step up than 4 to 8, or do you say there's not really comparison there?
I think it's difficult. I think in terms of swimming worldwide, I think the step down from open water to 1500 is more natural, but that's just my opinion. And I think you saw Bobby Fink at the Olympics won the 800 and the 1500. So there's certainly, you can go 800 up to, or even you get the open water swimmers coming down. So I think that's the exciting thing about the 1500 is that you've got those ultra endurance swimmers that might be coming down from the 5K or the 10K or even the 25K into the pool and the 1500, and you've got those swimmers that maybe more 400, 800 swimmers swimming up to the 1500, and I think that's where tactics will come into it in terms of pacing strategies. And you probably see the open water swimmers or the more ultra endurance swimmers taking out and just keeping their pace consistent, whereas the 800 and possibly even the 400 swimmers swimming up will have a bit more of a kick at the end, so you maybe see that last 50 with a bit more speed.
Well, Ben certainly got a nice pace on here. It was a 67 for his 100, so around about the 66 to 67, so going nicely. 4:53.97 there, so that's him done 4:50.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on his 500 to see how he's balanced his race across the 3 500s and see if he's looking for an even split or maybe even negative splitting, or possibly even taking it out too hard and then maybe coming back a bit slower in the last 500. But I think that's all learning. I think that's what racing is. You learn. You can train as much as you want, but really testing your skills in the competitive arena is important. And I think racing is the best form of training, and I think you can learn so much from any swim that you do, even if it's a swim that's not quite the result you wanted. There's always learning in racing.
Absolutely, and Ben is really settling now into a 66, 67 pace here. Looks like on his outside, Ewan Walker from Ren 96 is just edging past Callum, but Callum's still there. So Callum got his heart rate up very quickly in the first 100 and has settled into something slightly slower, but Ben has really picked this up just over 6 minutes there at 5:50. But you were talking about those 1500 pedigree in Australia. I mean, those guys, Grant Hackett, and he was a genuine national hero. You wouldn't hear of that in Britain, with a 1500 swimmer being a genuine national sporting hero, but he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Swimming in Australia is it's a key sport. I mean, it's a key sport in Britain, but we just don't quite get the publicity that it deserves. And I think hopefully into the future we'll see the swimmers getting a bit more recognition for their efforts, with British swimming doing so well, and obviously Team Scotland at the Commonwealth Games, which should be good to see next year. Swimming in Australia, it's the culture that the country sort of revolves around the water safety and swimming and surfing and the like. So definitely distance swimming in Australia has been a massive pedigree for them in their swimming, and they're channeling a bit more sprint swimming these days, which is interesting. I think that's the way that world swimming's going. But I think in terms of Scottish swimming, we need to keep encouraging these distance events, the 8, the 15, giving the swimmers as much opportunity to race across all the distances, and those swimmers that are wanting to target the distance swimming, I think they should be getting as much opportunity as those targeting the sprint events.
Absolutely, it's a real opportunity, and as you say, with the open, and that's one of the positives in the pandemic. I think open water swimming was the only thing people could do. So a lot of people, I think, were encouraged to give it a go, and found that not just in competitive, but from a life kind of well-being thing. Lots of people getting up early in the morning and getting in that cold water, but starting their day with a bit of purpose. So open water swimming is going to go through a bit of a renaissance, and we've had a few swimmers who started in the pool that did go out into open water, and so maybe more will do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think wetsuit sales definitely increased during the pandemic. And I know myself, I did get myself one, and ventured into the depths of Portobello Beach, and I think it was 5 degrees when I went in, and I couldn't speak after I got out. So
although sometimes in Portobello it's not the cold water that you've got to worry about most, but that's another conversation for another day.
Dear. I think they say 1 minute per degree you're meant to be in the water, and I didn't know that until I got out. So.
Yeah, I think wetsuits along with rowing machines and treadmills were purchases during lockdown that apparently are perhaps not being used as much as had been intended when they were purchased. 8:48.86 here.
Yeah, definitely. Swimmers trying to find different ways to stay fit, and give them something to do is certainly a challenging time to navigate the pandemic, and as we come out on the other side and see more competitions come up, it's great to have these guys back at the national short course meet. Absolutely.
So 8:48 there at the 800. So again 67 for this 100. So Ben's really got into the groove here. It's encouraging to see. Looks like I think 1500 is one of these events. Once you're in that groove, you just stick at it, and it becomes hard. But you do know that you're at the right place. A horrible event to miss pace, I think.
Yeah, definitely. You can get into your rhythm pretty comfortably in the 1500, but it can also go the other way, where you can get stuck into a rhythm that's a bit too slow, and it's difficult to get out of that rhythm. So I think it's important to lay the foundations across that first 300 and then really build across those next 4 300s.
And in this race for second, Callum Peebles has now come back on Ewan. So Callum's come back strongly. 9:56. 56, so that's another 67.
Yesterday we were talking on the live stream about the 800 free, and I was talking about Graham Smith's senior record from 2001 being the oldest senior record across the long and short course in Scottish swimming. It's 20 years old, but I had a look at the Scottish junior record for the 1500 this morning, and it was set by Graham Smith in 1992.
Wow.
So that is
a long time ago.
29 years ago. So
well, before you were even a twinkle in your mother's eye.
Only born in 1998. So
goodness.
So I think that's a message in itself. Obviously, a fantastic athlete, Graham, and he was a wonderful swimmer. But in terms of progression, you've seen a lot of the other events over the years progress, and most of those records are relatively recent. But with distance swimming, I think there's an opportunity there, and opportunity is a word that I like, and I think distance swimming is certainly an opportunity. And some of these boys are grasping this afternoon. Absolutely,
and you saw yesterday, Jack Munsey, 18-year-old, had been previously not a distance freestyler, but he's come in and done an 800 free, broke the national age group record for him. Fantastic swim there, and I think that's a good example of that opportunity being grasped.
Yeah, I think he'll be eyeing up those spots for the Commonwealth Games next year in Birmingham. So obviously a former training partner of Stephen Milne at Perth City under Ann Dixon. So fantastic distance pedigree there, and certainly he's had a fantastic role model to look up to. And we won't see Stephen this evening in the 1500. He did race the 800 last night, but we will see him up in the 400 freestyle final later on. So if anyone's wanting to look at freestyle technique and efficiency, I think Stephen's a great example of that, and he's been a fantastic ambassador for Scottish swimming across his career.
Absolutely, and saying earlier yesterday, marvelling at a 27-year-old still getting up and doing 800 front crawls. That's quite something, I have to say.
Yeah, definitely a message there of the longevity that's possible in the sport, and I think 27. I'm sure he doesn't view himself as an older athlete. I think there's plenty more in the tank left for Stephen. I think he'll be looking at Birmingham next year as an opportunity.
Fantastic. Yeah, gone are the days when an old swimmer was 17 or 18, which is not too far away when that was considered, and you've now it's become far more professional, a bit more, not a lot of money, but a bit more money, allowing swimmers to really move into their 20s and make the most of that strength and experience.
Yeah, I think, as you said, the distance athletes, maybe they're potentially a little bit younger across the senior ranks, but yeah, I mean, you see some of the sprinters out there, they're 40 plus years old and they're still breaking world records, so anything's possible in this sort of generation. But we see Ben McLaughlin doing a great job with his 1500. He's coming up to the last part of his race here, so we'll see how his pacing's developed across the race. He's been relatively consistent, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you get the 1,000? I'm just thinking he was 5:27 at the 500.
Unfortunately,
no,
I
missed
don't think
that
I have
as
that
well.
written down.
But he's definitely just powered ahead on this and maintained that 67 pacing for the so 13, 19, 90. So that's a 65 there. So he's definitely ringing it in as he comes towards the end of this race. He'll be feeling good. He's got a few hundred to go, and actually a good sign that he's picking it up with 200-300 to go, I'd have thought.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about that, looking at it about 5-300s. I would be interested to see. Obviously, we can't read his mind, but I would love to know what his tactics were coming into the race. But it looks like he's executing his race plan quite well, and has obviously got enough left for this last portion of the race, and is sort of picking up the stroke rate, starting to bring those legs in. I think another thing we didn't mention is the turns on the 1500, and it's a massive opportunity to make 0.1, 0.2 each turn. It can add up a lot to the end of the race. Short course swimming, you've got a lot of turns, so definitely an opportunity there to make some improvements, and I'm sure one that the coaches are drilling into their swimmers throughout the training sessions, with so many turns available for as an opportunity in each training session.
Absolutely. So 59 turns or something, so 14:27, 7:05. So that was another 66. So this is looking good.
Yeah, on the final 200 here. So he's got 175 to go. We'll see him start picking up, and I'm sure when he hears that bell for the last 50, that'll give him an extra boost of energy, as it always does. It's something that the swimmers love hearing at the end of a 1500 with 150 to go.
You wonder whether they need to have one at 300 as well, just to give them a extra spur. 15:00:21 turning there. So just to pick him on his entry time is a 17:10. So guys along the bench have got a very clever little spreadsheet that works out what a predictor for what you're doing when you put the hundreds in, but haven't got access to that, unfortunately, so we'll have to work that one out ourselves. But
yeah, definitely. We'll see what comes up at the 1400 turn. He's got 100 to go after this turn, so coming in here, 15:33. Yeah, 15:33:45.
So that was a 65 point that time, so that's good. He's 66, sorry, but still. So 106 on top of that. So he's looking at 16:40 on an entry of 17:10. So that's been a good workout for Ben if he can keep this going.
Yeah, he did actually get 2 rings of the bell there. I think a little bit of a mistake there, ringing the bell with 100 to go, but he's going to get another bell here at 50. So we did talk about ringing the bell twice, and that's actually happened in this race. So
that's quite
50 to go. We'll see if he can bring in the legs and pick up that stroke rate.
It could be quite disconcerting, I'd have thought, but
Absolutely,
he's done well to keep it going. So he knew where he was, he knew what he was meant to do, but would have been a real shame if he'd finished.
Yeah, absolutely.
50 early.
So he was keeping an eye on the lap counters, so very astute athlete there, keeping an eye.
It takes a lot of presence of mind, doesn't it, to not get distracted by that, believe in what you know you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure he's been concentrating throughout this race, and that focus has paid off there. In 16:37:59, he's coming to the wall.
He was in on a 17:10, so that's a great swim from the 15-year-old.
Yeah, fantastic. Over 30 seconds under his entry time there, so really grasped that opportunity of the 1500 this afternoon.
So with the rest of the race going on, Callum Peebles has carried through. And he's going to come in second, 17:04. So that is under his entry time, a couple of seconds, so that's nice.
Yeah, good swim there from Callum. I'm sure he'll be eyeing up that 17-minute marker the next time he pops into the water for a 1500.
So Carl Mitchell out there in lane 1, teammate of Ben who won, so 17:08 for Kyle. That's a nice 32-second improvement for him. So these Gary guys have really got their 1500s sorted with some really strong swims there. 17:20 for Fraser in 5th place. So that's them all done, and Struan also in at 17:42, so a time under his entry time as well. So nice swimming there from the boys in the 1500s. So that concludes the sort of afternoon heats of the main winter meet swimming. We're going to have a short break now before the next event, which are the youth heats. And in these heats we have girls 200 metres IM. We've got 200 metres freestyle for boys. We've got 200 breaststroke for girls, 200 fly for boys, and a girls 400 freestyle.
Yeah, looking forward to these additional youth events and opportunity for these guys to take on. I think we've talked a little bit about swimming, talked a bit about open water swimming. Quick mention out to para swimming as well. We've had a couple of world records yesterday from Stephen Clegg in the 50 free, the 100 free and the 50 fly, and it's actually a British para meet going on in Swansea at the moment. So some of our Scottish para swimmers are down there in Swansea. Racing, I think potentially a qualification for the world para as a world para trials for next year. So
absolutely,
got swimmers across all parts of the country racing in their various disciplines.
Yeah, absolutely. I had Chris on this morning, and he was saying that Stevens, after the events at the Olympics, he's decided to have a little bit of a chill winter. Although not many people chill for their winter and do 2 world best times in a kind of meet that they've not tapered for, but that's what Stephen managed to do yesterday, which is pretty impressive. And yeah, having a bit of a rest. It's been a tough couple of years for a lot of these guys, so not swimming in Swansea, but their loss has been our gain, absolutely, to see some fantastic world-class para swimming. Got used to that in this pool with people like Scott Quinn as well. Real lively character, entertaining character, but dedicated character as well in the para swimming world. Also now swimming at Edinburgh Uni in their elite setup as well with Stephen Clegg. So good to see there.
Yeah, and we've got Tony Shaw, just moved recently from Aberdeen to Stirling. So another fantastic para athlete in Scottish swimming, and yeah, she's a great ambassador for Scottish swimming and also their Learn to Swim program as well.
Absolutely. So just whilst we wait for these swimmers as they come out, any particular highlights that we've not discussed for this evening's session? If we run through to try and entice some people who are watching the afternoon swim to see swimming in the evening with the finals. So we've got the women's 200 IM, so no Hannah Miley, but certainly plenty of good class swimming coming in there.
Yeah, definitely. We saw Von Brown win that 400 IM last night, so she'll be looking to double up here tonight in the 200 IM, and she was swimming personal best last night. So definitely some fast racing, that 200 IM.
Indeed. So the break's over though, so we'll have to, that was your teaser for this afternoon's live stream viewers, so just take it from us, there's going to be some cracking swimming later on, and
yeah,
finals.
Some fast relays to finish off the session.
Always
as well,
good fun.
So.
Mixed relays, which is a good addition to the programme. It gives everybody a chance with a couple of swimmers in their squads and their clubs to enter a relay. So 5:30 final start with the 200 IM this evening, ending with the mixed medley relays, which are even more interesting than the freestyle. This is a combination of men and women doing different strokes.
Yeah, it keeps everyone on their toes. You can't really project that race until the last swimmer touches the wall. So sometimes you got men starting, sometimes you got females starting. So yeah, definitely some different tactics deployed across those mixed relays, depending on the strengths of the four individuals. That's
later on this evening, but coming back to this afternoon, we've got on to the additional youth heats now in event 201 and the girls 200 metres IM. In lane 1, Madison Gallagher from first, Melissa Minnie from City of Glasgow in second, Orlan Mckinnis, Heart of Midlothian in third, Perry Scobie, Stirling Swimming in 4, Layla Wetterspoon, Heart of Midlothian in 5, Victoria Niven, City of Glasgow in 6, Beth Hunter, Ren 96 in lane 7. So good opportunity for these guys to get swimming in this meet. And it's the two heart swimmers, Orlan Mckinnis and Layla Wetterspoon.
Yeah, taking it out hard on the fly, 31s there for the two heart swimmers. Really taking on the challenge of this 200 IM.
13-year-old Layla, we're talking about young swimmers here, so she's definitely one of the youngsters. Melissa Many in lane 2, also 13, but Orla, 14-year-old heart swimmer, not exactly old herself, and she's just stretched out on this backstroke, taken back over from Layla. Good underwater from Layla though.
Yeah, definitely. You look for the skills over time, to be honest, in the developing swimmers. I think developing those skills at an early age is far more important than the speed that you're racing at, because that carries forward as you develop as a swimmer.
And Orla, though, has taken it back in 1:10.71. Melissa caught back a little bit on the backstroke there over Layla, but it's still pretty close across the three of them.
200 IM always a good watch. You sometimes see some of the stronger breaststroke swimmers coming through in that third 50, and different strengths across the strokes across the board, and always an interesting watch, especially on the breaststroke.
And talking of which, Perry Scobie in lane 4 has just proven your point. This has come through from about 5th or 6th into 2nd and still motoring through the field and catching up on Orla Mckinnis. That's a really good example of a strong breaststroke, pulling somebody back into the race by the scruff of the neck, and she's even going to take Orla and turn into this final 50 ahead. So that is a fantastic example of a breaststroker strength in the IM.
Absolutely, and she's going to try and maintain that lead as she comes on this freestyle leg. But Orla Mckinnis looks like she's taking the lead back there on this freestyle, so she comes into the turn for the last 25.
Looking strong there, Orla. I guess the breaststroke coming hard on that, you then end up maybe being a little bit too tired when it comes to the freestyle if you don't pace it quite right.
Yeah, definitely. It's about balancing your efforts across the race and obviously using your strengths to your advantage. But Orla Mckinnis coming into the wall here, looks like she's going to take this heat.
Very nice swim there from Orla, 2:32.32, so that's a nice improvement on her entry of 2:35. Second was Layla, so as you were for most of that race. Layla Wetterspoon 2:33.34, nice PB as well. And in third place was Melissa Many, 2:36.02. And again, nice improvement on her entry. So definitely these additional heats for those girls have proved to be very, very beneficial, with some nice improvements in their times and an opportunity to swim at one of the national meets.
And I think we'll see some of these girls come up in the events in not too long a while. So they'll be backing up back-to-back events, and I think that's great to see, making the most of the opportunity they've been presented with.
Absolutely. As we move into the second heat here, in lane 1 we've got Talia Blackley from City of Glasgow, Cassie Wiper from City of Glasgow in 2, Alice Mackey, Heart of Midlothian in 3, Jessica Heaps, Fauldhouse in 4, Isla Grant, Heart of Midlothian in 5, India Marshall from East Lothian in 6, Hannah Edmiston from City of Glasgow in 7, and Libby Doubleday, also City of Glasgow, in lane 8. It's a strong start in lanes 3 and 4, Alice Mackey and Jessica Heaps, Hearts and Fauldhouse.
Yeah, they're taking out pretty strong here on the fly. I think we discussed it in the 100 IM, the transitions from each stroke. There's 7 different types of turns in the 200 IM, or in any IM, 200 or 400. So lots of challenging transitions, and I think it's about maintaining that speed in and out of the walls. And as you come in from the fly to back, or even the back to the backstroke, it's really important to make the most of those turns. And we'll see how these swimmers fare as they go through the race.
Yeah. Yes, when you're younger, if you've got 7 different turns to make, you can maybe get a little bit confused. Although these guys are, whilst they're young, they know what they're doing and experienced, and unlikely to do that, but it still doesn't get away from the fact it's a complex technical event.
Yeah, definitely a complex event, but one that I think is great for developing the younger swimmers. And you've got all 4 strokes, and I think we mentioned it a lot about that multi-stroke approach for the development of these swimmers, and I think it's important not to specialise too early and keep your options open in swimming. And I think it increases the enjoyment as well, just having a range of strokes and a range of distances to race and also train for.
Absolutely. And in the breaststroke, somebody not coming through as strong in this one. It's just all three of those girls. Maybe backing up your point there, Scott, that being good, strong swimmer in all strokes is important, and they've all held their own here on the breaststroke, and turning in 1:52.98. So that's a good 5 seconds up on the previous heat. So these guys are in a 2:29. So you'd expect that, but it looks like they're going to be doing some nice improvements on those entry times. And it's a nice race here between lanes 4 and 3. So Jessica Heaps and Alice Mackey all to play for in this last 25.
Yeah, I think yesterday we talked about the 400 iron being swum at 200 pace. I think the 200 iron will be swum at 100 pace. So I think these girls will be pretty much sprinting these 50s and coming to the finish. Yeah, the leg kick's looking pretty strong. And
Very
Jessica
good,
Heaps taking that heat in 2:26.76. Fantastic swim.
A nice 3 second improvement on her swim entry time. 2:27 Alice Mackey. So those two really helped themselves, pushed each other along to make some nice improvements on their entry times. And Isla Grant, teammate of Alice, edging in third there, 2:29, and so another improvement for her. So again, lots of PBs from these girls swimming in the afternoons, which is good to see as we move into the 200 metres freestyle for boys 17 and under. And we have 2 heats here, and in this first heat, as you can see on the screen there, Adam Scott around 96 in 3, Ewan Weir from Dundee City Aquatics in 4, Andrew Smitten, South Aberdeen in 5, and in lane 6 it's Ethan Stewart from Hamilton Baths.
Yeah, up again in the 200 free. It'll be interesting to see how these guys attack the race. Talked about going out fast, but with a bit of an element of control, so they can bring it hard on the second 100. So we'll see how these boys choose to pace their 200 freestyle.
Strong start from Adam Scott, the Ren 96 swimmer. 2:13, 2:11, 2:13, 2:22 in lane 6 entry times here. But Adam Scott is really, I think he has had some swims in the main draw already of the weekend, so this was an extra bonus swim for him that he hadn't managed to qualify for in the main draw. So he's definitely making the most of this. 28:31 first 50.
Yeah, definitely taking it out strong. We'll see how he progresses on this 100 metre mark. Ewan Weir in second place here is just pushing up onto the edge of on Adam. Many of these boys racing multiple events, so good to see them backing up here in the 200 free.
Yep. So it's still Adam, 1:00.77, but still pretty close across the rest of the boys. So Ethan Stewart hanging in. He had quite a bit slower entry time, but he's not showing it here at all. He's absolutely in the mix with the other swimmers.
Yeah, you can see Adam's stroke. He's got a lovely balanced freestyle technique, and he's keeping his breath nice and tight to the water and reducing that drag at the front of the stroke. I think swimming is all about reducing the drag. And fun fact that water is 784 times more dense than air, so that's pretty useful when you're thinking about creating propulsion through the front of the stroke and minimizing drag. So he's really working with the water, and I think that's the useful thing about swimming and being at one with the water. You can't fight the stroke, and Adam's showing some nice balance in this turn of freestyle, and he's really coming out strong as he heads towards the last part of the race.
So you're winning the prize for the best fun fact of the day so far, Scott. So one up on Chris Jones there.
That's good to see.
As Adam comes
I'm always
in.
a bit of a competitive person. So
2:07.59. That's a lovely swim from Adam. So that's a challenge for Jack Thorpe this evening. See if he can come up with a funner fact than the relationship between air and water. But Adam Scott, 2:07.59. Great swim there. Ethan Stewart, really big improvement. 2:09.55, down from a 2:22. And Andrew Smitten, 2:11.75. So these guys really making the most again of that extra swim. And good to see. We're going to move into the second and last heat of this 200 freestyle, and we've got in lane 1 Guy Pelosi from City of Glasgow, Callum Gold, Aberdeen Dolphins in lane 2, Fraser Claxton from Heart of Midlothian in 3, Jacob Wood, Elgin in 4, Greer van der Meulen, Stirling Swimming in 5, Murray Dixon, Stirling Swimming in 6, Finlay Maguire, Heart of Midlothian in 7, and Tom Inglis, City of Glasgow in 8. Now, I know Greer and Murray Dixon and Fraser Claxton have all been swimming in the main draw, and so maybe these are slightly older 200 freestyle times. Let's see how they go.
Yeah, Jacob entered on 2:02 and Greer and Fraser entered on 2:03. So I think they'll be eyeing up that 2-minute marker. We saw a number of swimmers swim under that 2-minute marker earlier on. So it's definitely a massive barrier in 200 freestyle swimming, that 2 minutes. So we'll see how they progress.
Absolutely. 26.57. So that is going out with intent.
Yeah, definitely setting himself up here for a potential sub 2 minute swim. I like to see people attacking that first 100 of the 200 free. I think across world swimming we've seen the 200 free stagnate a bit since 2012, and you see most of the major finals, the swimmers just starting to race each other on the last 50 and just kind of eyeing each other up for the first 150. But in Tokyo we saw Tom Dean and Duncan Scott and a couple of swimmers really attack that first 100, and I think we've seen that 200 free progress a little bit more across the last 2 years. And I think it was Ian Thorpe that mentioned on a podcast about people not swimming fast enough on the first 100. So I think it's about getting that balance between the first 100 being fast enough but having enough in reserve for that last 100. So it's a pretty tight race here as we've got lanes 3, 4 and 5, 4, 5 and 6 here coming up to the 150 metre mark.
Absolutely.
Jacob, Greer and Murray.
So Murray and Greer really come through on that third 50 to catch up with Jacob, and it is Greer, 129.75. So he is on the margins. If he can come back very fast, but this is a tough ask, I think, to come back in that 30 point. But he's going to give it a good go, and he's got Murray Dixon pushing him hard on his inside, and Jacob Wood pushing him on the other side. So let's see if they can really. And Murray Dixon absolutely piling in on this last 25. Cracking last length here as they both come into the end, and they are stroke for stroke. Murray looking at Greer looking the other way. Oof, 2:01.14. Murray just taking the advantage of seeing the swimmer there as he breathed in first. Greer van der Meulen 2:01.25, and in third the early leader Jacob Wood 2:02.25. Nice race there.
Yeah, some great racing from those boys, eyeing each other up down that last 25, sticking their head down into that finish, and 2:01's fantastic improvements on their entry times.
So that's the result confirmed on your screen. So a really good race there from Murray Dixon and Greer van der Meulen, with Jacob Wood taking the early running, pulling them through. And we're now going to move on to girls 200 breaststroke. And again we have 2 heats here. And that's the lineup for the first heat. Madison Gallagher first in lane 3, Leonie Bedborough from Incas in 4, and we have Beth Hunter from Ren 96 in lane 5. And we'll have another heat after this on the 200 breaststroke.
Yeah, back to the action in the 200 breaststroke. Different pace from the 200 freestyle. We saw it was pretty full on, and that 200 freestyle we'll see a lot more technical aspects of the breaststroke swimming, and we'll see how these girls get on there. Entered on around the 3 minute marks, 2:55, and Madison 3:03. So we'll see how they get on here this afternoon.
Also good for some of these swimmers with the live streaming going on, might not often get the opportunity to watch themselves swim. It's usually the big national meets that are only live streamed, so not only an opportunity for parents and others at home watching live, but for these swimmers to look back. You use video recordings and stuff in your training much? Is that part of the regular way of doing it?
Yeah, definitely. We're unbelievably fortunate up in Aberdeen to have a wonderful camera system put in place at the pool, so we use that regularly to get feedback for the swimmers, and I think in terms of racing, video feedback's invaluable. So I think it's important for the swimmers to have a look at their own swims, and it might just give them a little bit of a different perspective and see things that how that from what they felt translates to what they're seeing, and sometimes those are totally different things. And we've had swimmers that have come out of the race and watched their video feedback and think, oh, actually that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or that was actually better than it felt. So yeah. I think swimmers looking at video feedback is definitely important, and I think if you've got that opportunity, then you've got to make the most of it.
Absolutely. So some of these guys from the smaller clubs who might not have that facility, this is a good opportunity for them to see what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms of from a coaching perspective, I always like the swimmers to watch it themselves, and sometimes if they figure out a technical component from looking at it themselves instead of the coach telling them. I think that just makes it even more valuable when it comes from the swimmer, not just the coach. The coaches can be there to support and help the athletes see those perspectives, but I think when the swimmer sees it for themselves, I think that's pretty powerful.
Absolutely. And talking of powerful, this is a really, really powerful swim from Leonie here in this first 100. So she's gone out in a 1:21.9. So you'd be expecting her to be nicely under her entry of 2:55 if she can keep this up. And second place is Beth Hunter from Ren 96. So Leonie only 12. So really taking this opportunity, very young age, and she's looking good. And she comes up with 50 to go. Maybe Beth just maybe edging back a little. A bit older, so maybe a bit more experience, but good start here from Leonie. Let's hope she can really push it through on this last 50.
Yeah, definitely. We just saw a close-up of that turn there, and she was quick round the walls, and that's important on breaststroke. It's definitely not a difficult task to get stuck into some lazy habits and be slow around the walls. But she's showing us a great example of a fast rotation on those turns.
And also in the stroke, they're quite different. Discussing that with Chris this morning, you've got a gliding approach in lane 5 from Beth, but Leonie's slightly more thrusty, as he called it.
Yeah, definitely. You see, breaststroke is probably the stroke that has the most technical variations across a race. You can watch a 200 breaststroke and you can have 8 different sort of styles and techniques, and that just adds to the interest of the event. Great swim there from Leonie coming in there on 2:51.37. Beth Hunter closely followed, 2:54.25. And Madison just coming into the wall there, 3:02.87.
Yep, and a nice shot there of her coming into the wall from head on, so she'll get a different view of the technique as well, and it'll be a nice one to keep there as she was coming into the wall looking very powerful, and a nice 4-second improvement for Leonie in that 200 breaststroke first heat. So well done to her, 12-year-old. She'll remember that. Hopefully the first of many swims at events like this. So into the second heat, we've got Taylor Smith from St Thomas in lane 2, Madeline Patterson from City of Glasgow in 3, Cassie Wiper, also City of Glasgow in 4, and Caris Mooney, City of Glasgow in 5. Ella McGeorge, Cooper in 6, and Lexine McCappin from first in lane 7. 13-year-old Madeline, and then a couple, 3 14-year-olds and 2 15-year-olds in this event.
Yeah, I think it's important you mentioned about the national events. These swimmers competing at national events. Not an easy task here to perform at your best at a national event. Some of the swimmers will be experiencing that for the first time, and it's not just a national event. We've obviously got other restrictions and different challenges in place as well with keeping tight for COVID regulations, and I think that's it's a great experience for these swimmers, and hopefully when they come back next year, or even into early next year, another national event, they'll be have a lot more experience and hopefully be more prepared to race at more national events in the future.
Absolutely. So Snags next year is in middle April, I think. So you'd be thinking with these guys, that's their next big national target, and to be able to do that here at this pool in this kind of an atmosphere will really get them into. Snags is usually the starting point for a lot of these things, so it gives them an early start, having missed out on the last year or two of events like that. And the 3 City of Glasgow swimmers here in lanes 3, 4 and 5 taken out, as well as lane 6 you've got Ella McGeorge. So it's really Ella actually with that Cassie Wiper in lane 4 taking the early lead, but it's still pretty close across the 4 girls, and even Lexine's not that far behind as they come into this first 100.
Yeah, quite a tight race we've got here. The 3 City of Glasgow girls, I'm sure will know each other quite well, and I think you mentioned bragging rights earlier, and I'm sure there'll be a bit of bragging rights up for here in this 200 breaststroke.
And it is lane 4, Cassie Wiper and Ella McGeorge from Cooper. They seem to be making the running, although Caris and Madeline are really still in this with 75 to go. Bit underwater as they come through into the turn to go into the last 50. Hard to see from that angle who's where. That makes it much easier. Bit of a stagger across the lanes But it's lane 4, Cassie Wiper, 2:03.95, so she's nearly 3 seconds up on that great swim from Leone in the first heat. Pulling away, really. I think she's definitely stamped her mark on this race in that third 50.
Yeah, definitely. Quite a powerful kick she's got there, and I think that's important in breaststroke. We were talking about reducing drag earlier, and I think the fast action of that kicking and getting the heels up to the surface. We kind of look for the hips and the heels to be quite high in terms of body position in the water to reduce that drag, and I think she's achieving that quite well with that snappy kick that you mentioned earlier. So,
good swim here from lane 4, Cassie Wiper, 2:51 entry. She's going to get nicely under that, 2:47.47, so she will hopefully be very pleased with that. 4 second improvement. Second was Ella McGeorge, 2:50.06, so another improvement for her, and Karis Mooney, 2:51.30, an improvement for her as well. So, as with most of the swimmers in this afternoon session, they have taken that opportunity to just nudge their times that bit further forwards. That's good to see.
Yeah, and just looking at the program as we progress through these additional youth events, Karis is up again in the 400 freestyle. So these swimmers absolutely making the most of the opportunity and doubling up difficult events, 200 breaststroke, 400 free.
Quite different.
Yeah, absolutely, totally different events, and yeah, they require totally different preparations. But I'm sure they've had some discussions with their coaches and definitely willing to take on that challenge.
Absolutely. Talking of doubling up in the boys 200 fly here, we've got Adam Scott in lane 4, who's probably 10 minutes ago come out of the 200 free, good strong 200 free. So Ren 96 swimmer in lane 4. In lane 3 we've got Ewan Jones from West Lothian and Tom Inglis, City of Glasgow, in 5. So let's see if Adam can pick up where he finished off on his 200 free, which was a very strong swim all the way through, and he's looking pretty good already on this 200 fly.
Yeah, 200 fly, it's always a fascinating watch. It's a difficult event for these swimmers, but we've just got the one heat here, so interested to see how this unfolds. They've taken out relatively relaxed on this first 50, which is good to see, and it's quite a close race as we get to that 50-meter mark. Adam out there in 30.5, and Ewan and Tom 31.2 and 31.8 respectively. So we'll see these guys. Look at the 200 fly. I kind of compare it to horse racing actually. If you think about the Grand National and that last furlong, you've always see that horse come through sprinting at the end, but it's not really because that horse has sped up, it's usually because the other ones have slowed down. So I think in the 200 fly it's about who slows down the least. In swimming in general actually, it's kind of who slows down the least. So I think maintaining that speed that you go out with on the first half of the race is something to look out for on this 200 fly.
That's a nice way of putting it, who slows down the least. I like that. Elephant's landing is another way of...
Yeah, definitely. There's some other phrases like the piano on the back, but it doesn't look like we've got that here. And these boys are really taking on the challenge of this 200 fly.
So Ewan, nice swim here. He's looking strong. He's kind of had kept with that or within that first 100, but as you say, he just looks like he's maintained that pace slightly better. Adam has not long done his 200 free. I'm sure he won't be using that as an excuse at all, but it's a tough give to do these races one after the other. 1:45.33 for Ewan. And let's see what they've got in this final 50. And Adam's doing well. He's really not letting Ewan get away. He's looking strong on this. And he's actually coming back at Ewan when it looked like maybe he'd let him get away from him. And that last 25 has brought him back a bit closer. Probably left a little bit too much for the last 25, but he's certainly not given up.
Yeah, potentially Ewan really utilising those underwater sections there last turn. That was great to see. But Adam's coming in here.
Very good. We're in for a cracking last 5 metres here, and I think he's going to do it, you know. What an absolutely stonking last 25 for Adam Scott. He was in the lead. Ewan pushed ahead on that third 50 thinking he'd got it, and Adam just came back. And really strong last 50 from Adam in a 2:26.21. So not quite on his entry time, but a really well swum 200 fly. Ewan made a 25-second, just about 25-second improvement, so he'll be pleased with that.
Yeah, fascinating watch the 200 fly. It's never over till it's over. So we saw that there into the last 5 strokes, and I think that analogy of the horse sprinting through there at the end really kind of showed on that 200 fly.
Definitely. Beecher's Brook too much for him in that one. So we're moving into the last 2 races of the afternoon session. These are 400 freestyles for girls, 16 and under girls, 400 free, 2 heats. And in this first heat, I wonder whether somebody spotted that Lexine swam her 200 breaststroke probably, well, about 2 minutes and 25 seconds ago, and is now getting in for a 400 free. So we're just having a little break, I think, as the swimmers wait to marshal in for this 400 free. That doesn't seem unreasonable, really.
No, I think nobody would be challenging that. It's a difficult task having only 1 heat between 2 races. So I think just to be able to give these swimmers a bit more of an opportunity in this 400 free to show what they're made of. I think there's just a little bit of an additional break here.
That's good. And the screen at the moment you can see is the other side of this 50-metre pool at the Commonwealth pool that's being used as a warm-up pool. It's swimming across it. I think it's still 25 metres across. I'm not sure, 100% sure, but I think it is. So just making use of all the facilities that we've got here to allow everyone to get their warming up and the swimming down as much as they can. A big important part of the component for competitions, I think, in terms of getting that warm-up right, getting that swim down right, especially when you're doing these multi-event swims for yourselves.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important for the athletes to recognise and understand. It's that discipline in racing that you finish your race and you warm down effectively to give yourself the best chance to recover and come back in the next race and swim as fast as you can. Recovery is endless. I mean, you talk about swim downs, but then there's obviously the sleep components and nutrition as well. So they're definitely topics that we look at educating the swimmers on, giving them enough information so that they can take that away and apply that to their own swimming.
Yeah. It's complex.
Yeah, certainly. I think you learn through experience as well. I think every swimmer's been there where they've done a race and they've decided not to warm down and maybe they've seen the effects of that in the next race. And I think we talked about racing being a learning opportunity as well, and it's that. It's not just the racing; it's everything around that as well, and even just the psychology of competing at national events. Every opportunity to learn, I think, is important, and like you said, the swim down and that being so important. I think if you can learn through every competition, then when it counts the most, I think you'll be prepared to swim at your optimum capability.
Absolutely. Even swimming in a warm-up pool, it's not the pool you're going to swim in a race in. I mean, I guess for some of the younger swimmers, that's not something they would necessarily be used to, and it might sound silly, but I think it does make it, or it's just a different process, isn't it, as you do these competitions, as you go through the ranks. Yeah,
definitely. And I mean, being comfortable in the environment, we're all pretty comfortable in the pools that we train at, but even just coming to a new venue, I'm sure some of these swimmers have been to the Commonwealth pool before, others may not, so a new environment, new challenge, and new opportunity as well. So I think that's great to see this weekend at the National Winter Short Course Competition.
Absolutely. I had a chat with Chris about this. Fast pools, is there such a thing as a fast pool? What do you reckon?
There's a lot of talk about fast pools. I don't disagree, but I don't know what makes a fast pool. I think temperature's got a lot to do with it. I always like racing in a temperature that's pretty cold. I think if you try and swim fast in a warm pool, it's like swimming through syrup. So I think there is fast and slow pools. I think the depth of the pool has a factor in that. London's up to like 3 meters deep, and I think there's been a lot of talk around London being fast. But I think the pool's only as fast as the swimmer, to be honest. You can't be throwing out fast and slow pools, because I'm sure everyone at one point has swum fast in every pool out there. So it's a good debate, but I'm not too sure about that.
No.
What did Chris have to say?
Pretty much the same. I think he was mainly on depth, but I think he felt it was up to the swimmer.
Yeah, I think depth and water temperature is a factor, definitely.
But he made the same point as you. You swim what you swim with. Everyone swims in the same place at the same time. So
Yeah, and exactly. That's a fantastic point. Everyone's in the same pool at the same competition, so it's an equal playing field. And I think that phrase, "If you've got a lane, you've got a chance," and I think that's important to recognise.
Absolutely. So it looks like the girls have just had a little bit of an extra break, which is a good, nice touch there from the officials, just to allow these guys to make the most of the opportunity that they've got. So they are just lining up. Everyone here, you see that swimmer there just walking across stream with her white plastic bag. That's one of the new bits of COVID. No baskets being carried by young swimmers. So in a way, it's a lost opportunity for these young kids who my kids used to love coming to this place when the big meets and carrying the baskets with the swimming kit from the senior swimmers. But in COVID times, everyone's given their own little plastic bag that they have to be responsible for their own kit and pick it up and keep it secure. They've all just adapted and they've moved on and got on with it, which is good to see. And we've got a missing swimmer in lane 5, so no Taylor Smith, but we do have Lexine McCappin from first in lane 2, Georgia Reid, City of Glasgow in 3, in 5. So in 4, we've got Talia Blackley from Glasgow, and in 6, Melissa Menny from City of Glasgow. So Melissa swam fairly recently as well. So
yeah, 3 City of Glasgow swimmers in there, and Lexine from first. So it's a good representation there from the West, and look to see how these girls attack this 400 free. We talked about even pacing and negative splitting in the 1500 and also the 800 yesterday, and I think that's possibly a similar tactic that these girls might employ in this 400 free. Maybe looking at negative splitting these 200s or keeping the 200s split as even as possible.
yeah, talking with Chris this morning, 400's almost becoming a long sprint, and 200 used to be the long sprint, and the 400's almost moving in that direction.
Yeah, definitely. I like to look at, it's different because you're looking at short course racing here, and I think if you're comparing those to the equivalent long course events, I almost kind of look at the 400 short course as a good comparator to the 200 free long course. It's just my own opinion, and I think same with the 200 short course is quite similar to the 100 long course in terms of physiology and application to the event. So certainly the 400 short course is certainly progressing into a prolonged sprint. A challenging sprint in itself, being for these girls around that 5-minute mark.
Absolutely, but it's the 3 of them all there, 2, 3 and 4, so Lexine, Georgia and Talia. Lane 6, Melissa, just sort of disadvantaged, being slightly out of touch with a lane in between them as well, which doesn't help, I suppose, in these situations with the 3 of them just urging each other on.
Yeah, I think that's another learning experience here, is that these things are going to happen, and sometimes you're not going to have swimmers swimming in the lanes next to you, and that's not always an advantage. It can be a disadvantage, but I think for these swimmers, learning from their races and staying within their own lane. Mentioned yesterday about controlling the controllables, and you can only control your performance. You have no control over what anyone else is going to do. So I quite like that phrase.
Absolutely. As we turn in the halfway, 2:25.91. Very close though across the 3 of them, so hopefully they can keep this up and keep each other paced and moving on. Entry times in and around the 5 minutes, so at 2:25, got to go relatively even pacing to be getting on to the times that they've entered in.
Yeah, quite a good tussle here in lane 2, 4 and 3. Really working with each other, coming up to the last 150 of this 400 race.
So the lead has changed quite a lot on each of those turns, but it's not really separated them out very much. 3:03.88 there. I think Lexine on that one, but they are sort of on a bit of a spurt here in lane 4 from Talia. So yeah, these guys are really nip and tuck. Bit of a kick off the wall there. You could see them facing each other, lanes 2 and 3, breathing at each other and kicking in response.
Yeah, definitely. I think these girls are showing a great demonstration of distance breaststroke on their freestyle, and I think we'll see the legs start to come in on this last 100 meters. So generally see a pretty soft leg kick on the 400 free, but as we develop closer to the end of the race, when the sprint finish starts to come into play, you'll see the legs starting to pick up in intensity.
Absolutely. So as they come in to that wall, getting closer and closer between Lexine and Georgia. Starting to lose Talia just a little, but she's still close enough to really give it her all in this last 50. And Melissa has done well. She's stuck with them. Sitting here in lane 6, and a nice turn. 0.2 between the first two, 0.4 to the third swimmer, Talia. So let's see who's got it in this last 50. You can see them already changing their stroke rate, changing their breathing. Goodness, Georgia Reid has really tackled that last 50, and she's got the bit between her teeth. Hopefully not gone too early. See whether Lexine can come back, and she has on that turn. She's now facing each other in this lanes 2 and 3, Lexine and Georgia, and they are both absolutely hat at hammer and tongs. Sneaking it beside them, Talia Blackley is sneaking in, but I don't think she's going to make it. It's very close between them, and Lexine just edges it there, 4:56. 4:21. Second was Georgia Reid, 4:56.65, and Talia coming in 4:57. So excellent race. Lexine in particular made a big improvement there. She was in a 5:08, so 12-second improvement for her. Georgia in and around a couple of seconds improvement, and Talia just over her entry time. So that was a good race.
Yeah, fantastic race from those girls. All four of those girls taking that opportunity, that 400 freestyle, but we love to see a close finish, and that was an excellent example of that.
And we move into the last race of this afternoon session. And that's 400 free for girls. In lane 1, we have Safrina Mackin from West Dumbarton, Caris Mooney from City of Glasgow in 2, Orlan Mckinnis, Heart of Midlothian in 3, India Marshall, East Lothian in 4, Hannah Edmiston, City of Glasgow in 5, Lucy Atherton, Heart of Midlothian in 6, Victoria Niven, City of Glasgow in 7, and in lane 8 from Stirling Swimming, Eva Gordon. So let's see how we go here. Nice drive there in lane 3 and lane 1. So that's Safrina and Orla.
Orla Mckinnis, yeah, we saw her in the 200 IM earlier on, and she's taken this race out strong in lane 3, and closely followed by Hannah Edmiston from City of Glasgow.
So nice start here, 31.22. So a second and a half up on the previous heat, but not surprising. The entry times here in the low 440s. So see how these guys can hold their pacing here. And it's looking like it's Orla and Hannah. And in between them we've got India Marshall from East Lothian.
Yeah, certainly a tight race coming up to the 100 metre mark. We'll see what they split at this first 100 metre distance. Hannah turns over there in 106.2. Orla and India closely followed in 106.6 and 106.7.
A couple of seconds up on the previous heat.
I think these swimmers will be looking at relatively even pacing across the hundreds. Obviously the first 100 is going to be slightly quicker because you've got the dive, but after that first 100 really looking to get into that rhythm of the stroke, and then bringing those legs in on the last 100 metres.
So Hannah's kept that up, kept the pressure up, 140, 168. So she does look like she's just starting to take control of this. So Orla still within touching distance and still quite a long way to go. Still over 200. Caris Mooney, teammate of Hannah, as well as India Marshall from East Lothian, still keeping Orla company, but Hannah Edmiston definitely in charge at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. She looks relaxed in her stroke, and she's really maintaining that length out the front. She comes up to this 200 metre turn, turning in 2:17.66. So we'll see how she decides to distribute her efforts across the 200s as she comes up to the closing part of the race.
So the race across the rest of the field is sort of bunched a little. There's still all in it, I would say. pretty close in this near side and that far side. Not much more than 2 or 3 meters between most of the rest of the field.
Yeah, definitely. 400-meter race, a lot can happen in the last 200. I've certainly been there myself, where I've been sitting in a pretty good position at 300 meters, but the race is 400 meters long, so we can't be making too many predictions here as the swimmers turn at 250 meters.
Still just within touching of Hannah, although the longer it goes with this kind of gap between them, Orla looked like she just picked up her pace there, coming into 125 to go. So let's see if she's got that tactic to really push hard on this last 100.
Yeah, it definitely looks relaxed, so she may well have something in the tank for that last 100 meters. She comes up to the 300-meter turn.
So that gap is down to 1.5 seconds, so definitely just eking back. And still got plenty of time to come back on Hannah. And she has closed that back, so it was 1.5 seconds at the 300. So let's see where she's at 350.
Yeah, Eva Gordon in lane 8 there, coming through strongly on this in this last quarter of the race as well, which is great to see.
Still 50 to go, Hannah Edmondson. So that is still just over 1 second, so that's quite a lot for Orla to come back on, but she's given it a good go with that turn. Breathing towards, actually breathing every 3, interestingly, Orla, and is absolutely giving it everything on this second last 25. Got a lot to do though, and it's Hannah's really swum this race well. She's still ahead and paced it nicely. Orla's really given it a good shot on this last 10 meters, but I think she's maybe left it a bit too late, but she's edging back. And an extra 5 meters she'd have been there, but 4:39.82 for Hannah. So that's a nice improvement for her, 5 seconds. Orla Mckinnis, 4:40, so that's a 4-second improvement for her, and in third place. Karis Mooney, 4:45.36. So
great race there to finish off this afternoon's afternoon heats and additional youth events there.
Fantastic. So that's us concluded our racing for this afternoon on the live stream. Thank you very much to Scott, giving us his experience and observations there on the swimming. It was great to hear. Really informative and entertaining from my perspective anyway, so thank you very much, Scott. And just to remind all the live stream viewers that the finals this evening are starting at 5:30, so please do come back for that. Coverage starts at 5:25. Racing starts at 5:30. Some really good finals this evening across the programme for a couple of hours of swimming, so hopefully you'll enjoy that, and then we'll be back tomorrow morning and for the similar setup in the afternoon with some of the less fast heats in the main draw, and then there'll be some additional 200 swimmers in the youth events as well. So thank you for watching this afternoon, and look forward to seeing you later on. Thank you.